Today we'll be walking through the sociological idea of conflict theory. But first, let me introduce you to Stan.
Hey, I'm Stan.
Hey Stan, have you ever heard of conflict theory?
Conflict theory? What's that?
Conflict theory is based upon the ideas of a guy named Karl Marx.
The communist guy?
Yes, Stan, the communist guy. Karl thought that social problems were the result of the normal operation of capitalism. He also believed that society was divided into two main groups. He called one group bourgeoisie and the other proletariat. The proletarians are the people who sell their labor for wages, and the bourgeoisie are the people who own the means of production. He thought that the bourgeoisie would exploit the proletarians through power.
Wow, that sounds like a horrible system. What country would ever base an economic system off of that?
Well, the American system is actually based off of that.
Oh, so did he ever find a solution?
Yeah, he sure did, Stan. It's called communism. Communism basically gives everyone equal rights to everything.
So did it work?
No, as seen through countries under dictatorship like North Korea, but sadly North Korea still has a huge amount of inequality. But conflict theorists claim that North Korea's economic system isn't being ran the way Karl Marx would have ran it.
Oh, okay. So is this theory even used anymore?
Yes, actually, this theory can be applied to many different situations in the modern world. But today we want to focus on two main topics. We're going to talk about conflict theory in American politics, but mainly political funding, as well as conflict theory in the American school system.
What does presidential political funding have to do with conflict theory?
Did you know that $2.1 billion was spent on the 2012 presidential election?
What? What did they spend it on?
Well, for President Obama, 56% of it was to media, so things like campaign commercials, signs, radio, and internet ads, which came to be a total of $427 million worth.
So what about the rest of the money? What was that used for?
Some of it was used for administration. About $175 million was spent towards travel, staff, salaries, shipping, rent, food, and supplies. The rest of it was used for campaign expenses, so consultants, polling units, posters, and rallies. The sad truth is that the presidential election, who spends the most money or has the most spent towards his campaign, will win the presidency. So I have a question for you, Stan. Would you donate money towards a presidential campaign?
Well, to help get my political beliefs represented, I guess.
Exactly. But obviously, people with more money will donate more, and will more likely have their beliefs met.
Oh, I get it now. This is just another way of the rich exploiting the poor.
You got it, Stan.
So how much more do the rich spend than the poor?
Well, the average person would donate around $100 to $500, but the average rich person would spend $3,000 to $5,000. That doesn't include companies, though. Microsoft spent $419,000 for Obama's campaign. Even Google, the source of all knowledge, spent $304,000 towards President Obama's campaign in 2012. So the large donors ended up giving Obama 48% of the total funds he had, but the average American only gave Obama about 13% of his total funds. Political funding is a rich man's game. If you want your need met, then you better be willing to pay, or you won't be represented. Which, for most Americans, is the ugly truth. They just can't afford to donate thousands of dollars. They give what they can, but it's just not enough.
Wait a minute. Are you about to tell me that even schooling has a part to play in who becomes rich or not?
Well, it's not quite that simple, but yes, Stan, that is what I'm about to tell you. Schooling in the U.S. is very important. It is so important in the United States that going to school from kindergarten to 12th grade is mandatory. In order to have a well-paying job in the United States, you need some sort of schooling. Without schooling, it would be very hard to find a well-paying job.
Wow, really?
Yes, schooling is that important in the United States. However, the type of schooling that one receives can give them a leg up in the world. The two major types of schooling in the United States are public schools versus private schools. Most children in the United States receive their education from public schools around the country. However, there are a small population of children living in the United States that receive their education from private schools.
Quick question. What is the difference between public schools and private schools?
That's a good question, Stan.
Created using Powtoon.